It's now almost certain that Azimio is moving to the Supreme Court. We have heard it from none other than Martha Karua, Raila's running mate. Today, I want us to look at the Supreme Court, not in terms of the case itself, the substance of the case, but in terms of the politics of the Supreme Court. I say not in terms of the substance of the case, one, because so far we don't know what Azimio is presenting. One can only hope they will go beyond the stories in the social media, because to take a case to court, you need to put flesh into the stories we are getting from social media. But again, not to go into the details, because at some point somebody could accuse us of these things lawyers call sub judice or whatever it's called. So we're going to look at the politics of the Supreme Court, how it affects Raila Odinga and William Ruto, who is likely to gain and so on and so forth, but mainly about the workings of the Supreme Court, which you need to understand irrespective of where you are. But before that, allow me to thank our viewers and subscribers first for subscribing, and to urge you, please continue to subscribe, because now, perhaps more than ever before, we need to continue having these conversations, because we must keep sanity in this country. I also apologize for not going live for a couple of days. The young men, the crew, had to take a break, having been on duty 24/7 for more than a week. So they are back and we could resume our live stream soon. Now to the Supreme Court. Many people will need to be made to understand that the Supreme Court is not an ordinary court. The Supreme Court is a political court. If you want this to come out clearly, find out what happens in America, in the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court delivers decisions based on which side of the political divide has the numbers at the Supreme Court. They are not like us. Here we talk of objectivity, neutrality, impartiality. We even extend it to media and the judiciary, the Supreme Court. Elsewhere, it is a question of the politics of the day. For example, in America, when a justice vacates office, mainly through death or incapacitation, that position is filled by the president. That means if it is a Republican president, he is the one to fill the vacancy. At some point then, it will always be that either the Democrats or the Republicans are the majority. So when a case like the Roe versus Wade comes before the Supreme Court, you can more or less say what will happen. You know, on issues of abortion, on issues of gay rights and other liberal ventures that Americans are getting into, the Republicans are conservative. So if the bench is conservative, you can more or less expect a certain verdict from the Supreme Court. So yes, to reiterate, a Supreme Court is a political court. If people expect the Kenyan Supreme Court to be another court, then they should be reminded we need not have gone beyond the Court of Appeal. That should have been the highest court. Hope I made myself clear. So if you are looking at verdicts from the Kenyan Supreme Court, then you must look at the 7 justices in the Supreme Court. And I can break it down for you without necessarily mentioning their names. Fill in the gaps. 4 of the judges will give verdicts, rulings, judgments, opinions in more or less like the American way. In other words, much as they are judges, their opinion is informed, they work with the law, and so on and so forth, the final opinion could very likely, as in the American case, be influenced by who they support. Not just by who they support, maybe even not who they support, but by certain persuasions, political persuasions. 4 of them. Fill the gaps. Another one, making judge number 5, is a judge who passed because of history, his own history, will more likely be persuaded by what people tend to term judicial activism. In other words, he's likely to sway on the side that is sometimes called progressive. But of course, I'm not saying they will depart law. Don't get me wrong. I've already said the Supreme Court is a political court. What gives it even more power is that it has own jurisdiction. Its own jurisdiction. It can make its own law. It can overturn its own decisions. That's a powerful court. And it's a powerful political tool. So you have 5 judges. The 6th judge is a judge who is in a court, a high court, a court of appeal. A judge who sticks to the law and will apply the law. And unless persuaded by the law, he will not vote the other side. Fill the gaps. Finally, the judiciary, the Supreme Court, has a judge of intellectual persuasion. In other words, his opinion is likely to be informed by his intellectual persuasion and sophistication. So you have the bench. That is the Supreme Court of Kenya, in my assessment. And whatever decisions you are looking for, whatever opinion you are looking for, you should be alive to this. Now, other than that persuasion, what else might inform the decision of the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court will be awake to our history. I'm looking at 2007 and seeing how we nearly got it wrong. Actually, we got it wrong, but God saved us. I think God loves this country. And then we gave ourselves a constitution in 2010. And we said one of the reasons why we got where we got in 2007, 2008, there was nowhere to turn. So we gave ourselves a new police service. We gave ourselves a new judiciary that included vetting of judges, that included the addition of the Supreme Court to handle electoral disputes at the presidential level. We gave ourselves other commissions like IEBC and so on and so forth. In 2013, the election was disputed. The Supreme Court will be aware of what happened. Many Kenyans know the Mutunga Court just fell short of nullifying that election. The Supreme Court will be aware. In 2017, the Supreme Court nullified the elections. Nullified the elections. If you asked me, no election was nullified. Because how do you nullify an election, order for a new election, and allow the same conditions to prevail? Allow the same people who had messed the election, leading to a nullification of a presidential election, to remain in place to run the ensuing rerun, or whatever you call it. So, and then when people attempted to put that rerun in question, the Supreme Court could not sit because judges were physically prevented from going to sit. But the Supreme Court went on as if nothing had happened. A petition against the repeat election was brought before the Supreme Court. In my own assessment, there was a hurry to dismiss that petition. So what am I saying? I'm saying the Supreme Court must be aware of this. That in 2017, the Supreme Court behaved like police officers on patrol on a lonely night, on a lonely road, they get crooks, criminals, harassing somebody, snatching things from him. And then they stop. Some of the crooks run into the bushes, but they managed to recover what had been snatched from the victim and his girlfriend. The girlfriend's handbag is there, telephone, mobile phones, they have recovered. But then immediately after that, the police enter their vehicle and drive off, leaving the same guy there with his girlfriend. The crooks will just come back and take everything. That is what to me happened in 2017. I'm trying to develop a narrative here that the Supreme Court, unless careful, may lead Kenyans into believing that it was a false start. Yes, it was a false start. That we gave so much hope in the institutions, but they have never worked. Immediately after we put up National Police Service, it was messed up by the executive. It's never recovered. IBC has never lived up to expectations. You can say that about many other institutions that we gave ourselves. And therefore, the Supreme Court will be aware as they look at this case, if it is presented before them, with that in mind. That if you are not careful, you'll make people give up hope in the Supreme Court. And this doesn't mean the Supreme Court has to nullify an election. Whether or not the Supreme Court nullifies this election is besides the point. In fact, it's not even the point. But the point is simple. Can the Supreme Court send a message to Kenyans that it will be impossible, if not difficult, for somebody to miss an election? Can we see some participants in this election being convicted of election offenses, regardless of whether you nullify the election or not? Can we see officials who are approved to have messed the election, if the election is messed, dealt with? I've said this many times. I must repeat it. That's the only way Kenyans will take the judiciary serious. Can we believe that a Kenyan will think twice before messing the election? Whether a politician or an IBC official. And this can be done only by the Supreme Court. So whether or not the Supreme Court will nullify this election is not the point. The point is, let the Supreme Court put down its foot. The Supreme Court continues to entertain IBC even when IBC disobeyed its own orders in 2017. You can remember the server and many other issues. Lawyers talk to us about equity and clean hands, that he that goes before equity must go with clean hands. IBC has been entertained by the judiciary with the dirtiest of hands. That's why we are where we are today. I must end up by saying, an election can bring down the country. It's not one of those things you want to play around with. As we continue to thank God for keeping us together, and as we continue to pray for peace in this country, we must challenge institutions such as the judiciary, responsible for arbitration, to do so without fear or favor, and to punish in the strongest possible way all the culprits, those in the political arena and those in the electoral body, IEBC. Only then can we be sure we'll continue to enjoy the peace we've been enjoying? Because an election at the end of the day only helps to give us a leader one at a time. It shouldn't be something that makes us go for each other's throats. No. And that is, as I finish, my message to the Supreme Court. You have powers within yourselves to ensure that come 2027, nobody will bring a case before you to nullify a presidential election. Because, I've said this repeatedly, it is the people of Kenya to elect a president. If the people of this country think it is William Ruto, irrespective of what others feel, then it must be William Ruto to be the president of Kenya. But that is only going to be so if this is a clean election. Should we find there were issues, should issues be raised by his competitors, and should there be merit in those issues, it will not be enough to nullify the election. It will not even be important. It will not be enough to say we are not nullifying this election, because that will not even be important. The important thing is to ensure, going forward, nobody will ever try to play around with elections in this country, because it's akin to playing with fire. I hope my message to the Supreme Court and to Kenyans is clear, and that I speak so with a clean heart as a patriot who loves this country. And that I hope many Kenyans will join me in this prayer that we keep peace and keep our elections peaceful now and in the future, and that the Supreme Court helps us to ensure that not only are our elections believable, credible, and clean, but that all players enter this game, whether as politicians or as officials of the electoral body IEBC, know that there's only one thing Kenyans demand of them: a clean election.